All right, so I'm going to make a video. Hopefully, I want to keep this under 10 minutes on how to flash the AREDN firmware onto a Mikrotik device using Windows. And I think this process should be straightforward, just as easy, if not easier, than doing it on Linux. I have this router board HAP AC light that I'll be flashing, and I will just get right into it. So the first thing you need to do is download a piece of software called PXE server, and I'll post the link to that. For some reason, the link isn't working right now, but the direct link to the file download works, but if I paste that in there, it just downloads it. So I've already downloaded the file here. It's pxeserve.zip, and that I will put the direct link to the download in the description, or if I can find it later, I'll annotate it onto this video. So once you have this file, you're going to want to unzip it, and I just put this on my desktop. So after you download it, it'll be in your downloads folder. So I moved it from my downloads folder, which is here. I just copy and pasted it into a new folder onto my desktop here, just to keep everything clean, so I don't have to look at the hundreds of downloads I have. So I'll just right click on Windows, extract all. It will pop up with this. If you're familiar with this, just click extract, show extracted files when complete. Take a second there. Taking a little longer than I wanted. While that's going, let's see. All right, that took a little longer than I wanted, but we're here. Okay, so the next thing you need to do before you even go into anything here is in this config.ini file, right click on it and click edit, and that will load it up into Notepad. And then under this, where it says DHCP, you need to add a line, and this is important. RFC 951 equals 1. RFC 951 equals 1. Press save. Close it out. Okay, and now let's go and configure some network settings that we'll need to have set up. And to do that, just go to the start bar in Windows 10 and type in network status. That'll work. Network status will work. What we want to do is we'll see this and then click change adapter options, and then you'll get a list of your network cards. You need an Ethernet cable or an Ethernet Cat5 adapter Ethernet port for this to work. So select the port you'll be plugging it into and click properties. Then you want to look for something that says Internet Protocol version 4, and then click properties there. And then generally this will be set to obtain an IP address automatically, but what you want is to put in these values. So you pause the screen there, but that's what you want. And then you'll press OK. Once you have that, close, and then we can forget about that for the time being. So now, after we've done that, what we want to do is go and download the latest AREDN firmware. So the link is, if you go onto the AREDN website and you go to nightly builds, of course the link isn't showing up there, but you click Mikrotik firmware. So this here, that's the link for the most recent Mikrotik firmware. So what you want to download for sure is this ELF file, and I will right click and save it as, and then I will go to my desktop here where I have this. I'm going to save it into the firmware folder just so I know where it is. And then I'm using the HAP Lite AC. So the other thing, I need to select the correct bin, and the correct bin file, sysupgrade bin file for this device is the one that I've highlighted there. So I will save that, and that's going to go in the same place, and that's downloaded. Okay, now what we need to do is go into our actually, there's a trick to this. It took me a while to figure out. So you go ahead and power on the router board and plug in the you plug in your laptop or computer, whatever you have, from the computer into the internet port. And what this will do, you'll see it enables this Ethernet port. And it needs to be enabled so that when you go into PXE server that you can select the IP address, because I just loaded up PXE server and you'll see I have 2 IP addresses now. If this is not plugged in, if this is showing a little X there, it won't give you the option to select the IP address that we just configured. So now that we have that plugged in, I can go ahead and select this. You want to bind it to the one that we set to this IP address. And all of this, you don't have to worry about any of this in here. It's all good how it is. What you do have to do, though, is where it says, actually, before we do this, what we need to do is specify the boot file. That's what this device is going to look for when it loads. So I just downloaded over in the firmware folder these 2 files. What I want to do is copy this file. I'm just going to copy it and go back into this PXE serve, and there's a files folder, and I'm going to paste it in here. And this is where the PXE server has looks for the files by default, so you don't have to change any settings. So what you want to do, this might not be necessary, but it works, so I'm not going to play with it too much, but rename the file to rb.elf. Okay, so now that we have that file in there, I can go and select under boot file. You get the 3 little options, go to the files, and then find the rb.elf file that we just had, open. And this is important, uncheck the file name button here. And I'm using a demo screencast thing, so I think that the time might expire on it. So I'm gonna start a new video when we go through the actual flashing. So this is part 1. Okay, so part 2. We've got this. We've got our tiny PXE server going. Then what we need to do is press the online button. And at this point, you can actually disconnect your computer from the device. And so let me see here. I'm going to need a pen. I use this pen to press the reset button. So I'm just going to unplug everything here and press the online button. And you might get something like this that pops up. I don't know if you can see it, a Windows security alert. I check both boxes, private and public. I only do that because I'm not sure which in Windows. I think it might default to when you plug in the the network cable to be a public network. So for this case, I'm just going to allow access and check both the boxes there. And okay. So now that that's started, what we can do is we can go ahead and plug in our PoE in, and that's in the internet port. If you're doing this on another device, the process is the same. You're just not going to have as many ports to deal with, and the reset button on the dishes is a little bit easier to press. You don't need a pen to press it. So now what you want to do is press down that button. You'll hear it click in if it's pressed down. And hope you can see me. I'm not too sure, but I'm holding it down and then going to press the put in the power. And I'm just keep holding that thing down. We're going to watch in here. And it's blinking. User is blinking. Just going to keep holding it down. And then user is solid. Okay, and there we go. So once you see that, do read file rb.elf, and then I'm going to go press offline. So you want to see this accent, and you can go ahead and unplug your computer. Do not unplug the device, because right now it is in a if you unplug the device, and it will just you won't brick it, but it'll lose its current state. So now I'm going to go plug it into plug my computer into port 2 there. And now what should happen is I go into, let's see, to be honest, I kind of forgetting if I need to do another step here, but so what you need to do now, you should just be able to just type in to your browser 192.168.1.1, and you should see something that looks like this, no call, and this is good if we see this. So what you need to do is go to the setup page, and then your default username is root, default password is HSMM, I believe. Okay. No, I won't say that. And then, okay, don't even bother messing around with anything here, because the firmware isn't actually loaded. This is just loaded something into the RAM. So as soon as power goes off, everything here will be killed. So the step right now that we need to do is load the actual firmware. So to do that, what you need to do is go to administration, and then you need to upload the firmware. So go to choose file, and if you remember, I had downloaded the appropriate firmware for this device, and I will open it now, and then press upload. It's uploading. That's a good sign. Firmware is being updated. Okay, so now what you need to do is, while this is doing its thing, go into the properties here, and you want to set your Internet Protocol IPv4 to obtain an address automatically, because at this point the AREDN node will be able to give you an IP address. So once you do that, you just can let it chill. And this, let's see, right now I'm paranoid of bricking it by unplugging it, but it's just showing red there. completely honest, this is my first attempt at doing this. I was just pretty convinced it would work once I was able to get to the first page. So it says it'll take 3 minutes. I can believe that. So I will pause the video until I get 3 minutes goes by. Okay, I'm resuming the recording here because it powered cycled once. It's doing some blinking and it turned red. So I think something might be happening. I'm going to go ahead and click on here and see. Might still be having to wait. It does take a little bit for this to come through. So yeah, it hasn't received an IP address. It still says identifying. And I guess I will pause it again. Okay, so it power cycled a second time. It's blinking. Hopeful something's going to happen here. Every time I start recording, nothing ends up happening. So, okay, it says network cable unplugged. Identifying. Okay. Turn solid. Keeps cycling through here. I'm going to go ahead and unplug this from there. I'm going to plug it into the internet port. See if that makes a difference. Probably not. Plug it back into there. Okay, I got something. I wonder if it's still at 192.168.1.1. Okay, so oh yeah, I forgot. It's not going to go to the new address until you go through the setup. So I'll just do a quick setup here. I'm just going to leave most of this blank. I just need to put in my call sign here, which is KM6WUH. Call it half AC. Got a couple nodes. So save changes. Distance value, yeah. So see a lot of people say, oh, I can't type in the distance. It's this bar here. Set that distance there, and I have to set a password. And I'll use the same password I used in my other nodes. And let's see. Now let's try and save changes. All right, cool. You get your new DHCP list. Okay, so that's what we want. And I will not save that password. So now it should reboot. So in short, I was waiting for it to come online. I was looking at the wrong address. I forgot that it would not get the new local.mesh address until after you go through that setup. So it should work here in a second here. I'm not sure how long it takes to reload, but it looks like it's blinking. User blinking. And now it's solid. Now we've got some activity there. And in theory, it should work. And there we go. That's what you want to see. And that is how you do it. Hopefully this is helpful.